Hi everyone, my name is Ruth Floren. I have completed my master's degree in forensic psychology from National Forensic Sciences University, India. In previous video, I explained or I talked about methods and procedures in interviews, and now I will talk about the methods and procedures in psychological testing. So here, in psychological testing, uh, the use of psychological testing is also a common method in both therapeutic and forensic assessments. Psychological testing can include a variety of tests and is particularly useful depending on the legal issue and the examinee. The most prominent types of tests used in forensic assessment tend to be personality tests, intellectual tests, neuropsychological tests, and specialized forensic tests. This is also one aspect of forensic clinical practice that separates psychologists from psychiatrists. Okay, and it is important to choose assessment approaches that have been normed on the population for which you are seeking to use them, and that as forensic psychologists you are aware of the levels of reliability and validity and the potential threats to them in a given situation. Personality tests, there are two types. First is projective and another one is objective. So let me explain in general. Probably the most common types of psychological tests is the personality test. Okay? Personality tests are designed to measure some aspect of an examinee's normal personality, or in the extreme, his or her psychology, psychopathology, or mental illness. A forensic psychologist may have to administer a personality test to assess for mental illness in cases that have a legal requirement for the presence of mental illness, such as insanity, civil commitment, and some personality injury. Cases are appropriate example. Psychological tests like Minnesota Multi-Basic Personality Inventories 2, or we used to say MMPI-2, are used to assess and examine psychopathology on a variety of subscales measuring things such as depression, schizophrenia, paranoia, and antisocial characteristics. So generally, personality tests can be divided into projective and objective tests. So now, I will talk first about projective tests. Normally consists of presenting ambiguous stimuli to individuals and recording their responses to assess an underlying pathology such as a personality or psychopathology. Tests such as the Rorschach-Ingold test and the thematic apprehension test, or TAT, are two common projective tests used in forensic situations. In both cases, the examinee is presented with the ambiguous stimulus, either an involved or a picture based in a particular setting, and asks for her interpretation of it. The examinee's responses are then scored to compare them to another individual's. Most projective tests are based on the assumption that an examinee's overt responses reveal internal dispositions that are not easily to discover. Projective tests offer some advantages and some disadvantages. The primary advantages of projective tests are that they are reportedly assess an examinee's deepest, most unobservable psychological characteristics and may be more difficult to fake. However, many of the projective tests have been criticized because they are more difficult to standardize, to administer, and to score, and exhibit questionable reliability and the validity of the test. And now, let's continue to the objective tests. Okay, the objective tests are different in that they tend to be more structured and direct. They present the examinee with specific questions and ask for the specified range responses. An objective test may include a statement like, I don't socialize with friends as much as I used to when I was younger. Okay, I will repeat again. I don't socialize with friends as much as I used to when I was younger. So here, the examinee may then be asked to respond true or false, or respond a scale ranging from 1 to 7. So if you choose 1, it means uh, not at all like me, okay? And number 7, if you choose 7, means very much like me, okay? So there are ranges from number 1 to number 7. Examples of objective tests may include tests like MMPI-2, the Personality Assessment Inventory or PAI, or the Milan Clinical Multi-Axial Inventory 3, and we can call it MCMI-3. Objective tests normally allow for a relatively easy administration that produce reliable and valid results. For example, a clinical psychologist can administer an MMPI-2 by sitting an examinee in front of a computer and working on another task while the examinee completes the test. The examinee's responses can then be scored in a matter of minutes, and summary information is produced for the psychologist to interpret. In addition, objective tests tend to exhibit greater reliability and have fewer questions regarding their validity than the projective tests. However, objective tests require a greater level of literacy and cooperation than projective tests and tend to give a more limited view of human behavior. And now, I will talk about other types of psychological tests. In addition to personality, there are other areas that forensic psychologists focus their assessment and testing methods upon. Psychological tests like the Wechsler Adult Intelligence Scale 4 or WAIS-4, WAIS-4, focus on intellectual capabilities of an examinee. In the United States, death penalty cases are an area in which forensic psychologists may administer an intelligence test such as the WAIS-4. Intelligence may be an issue in these cases because the United States Supreme Court has ruled that persons who suffer from mental retardation and therefore have an intelligence quotient or IQ below 70 are ineligible for the death penalty. And here also we have to know there are also another test which is we call neuropsychological tests. So neuropsychological tests are also a routine focus of forensic assessments. Neuropsychological tests like the trial making test or TMT, TMT-A and B, or neuropsychological batteries like the Luria, Nebraska, or LAND are designed to assess for underlying brain deficits that may affect psychological abilities such as planning, memory, and attention. Here, also, we can talk more about how A forensic psychologist uses neuropsychological. A forensic psychology may evaluate a defendant for competency to stand trial, and that assessment may include an evaluation of her long-term memory to make sure there is not an underlying impairment that explains her inability or his ability to remember the events of the crime. In long-term memory, impairments exist. She or he may be unable to assist in her defense effectively. So this is why neuropsychological tests really important in forensic assessment. So this is my explanation about methods and procedures in psychological testing. So there are two personality tests. First is projective and another one is objective. And also there are another types of psychological tests. We call it Wechsler Adult Intelligence Scale 4. And we also use neuropsychological tests in forensic setting or forensic assessments. Thank you so much for listening to this presentation. I will continue in next video. On the next video, so I will going to talk about the forensic assessment instruments. Thank you so much. I promise to declare the truth. Bye-bye.